Are you considering selling your home and wondering what you should do to get it ready? You can ask 10 different people and get 10 different answers about what they think would generate the highest return on investment. In this video, we'll discuss 5 of the most common property improvements and see how they stack up against one another. Hi, I'm Brian Fitzpatrick with First Impression Properties. I'm a full-time licensed realtor with RE/MAX in the Boston market, and I have over 20 years of home improvement experience. I've tackled just about everything: electrical, plumbing, tile, framing, plaster, hardwood flooring, most of it done successfully, some not so much, especially in the early days. My intent with this video is to help you decide which projects make the most sense for you. This list is by no means exhaustive, but it is a great place to start. I will analyze these improvements based on 3 factors. Number 1, how long does it actually take to complete? Number 2, skill, how hard is it? Number 3, cost, very important. What does it actually cost to complete the project? Before we get started, let's cover a basic concept. First impressions matter a lot. If the project does not improve the impression someone gets when they view the listing online or tour the property in person, it's probably not worth it. The only exception is if the house is simply unsaleable unless fixed. For example, old pipes wrapped in asbestos or a cracked foundation. Also, I'm not going to include kitchen or bath remodels. They are simply too expensive and only return 50 to 75 cents for every dollar you spend. Plus, they are notorious for going way over budget, both money and time, which can be added stress when all you want to do is sell your house. Number 1, let's start with the most obvious and by far the biggest bang for the buck: paint. This is hands down the best return on your investment. If time is tight, it would probably make sense to hire professional painters. But if you have a few months, head down to your local hardware store, pick up some supplies, and get after it. Not only will the place look great, you will feel great knowing that you did it. In terms of time, this is very fast. It dries in just a few hours, but prepping can and usually does take longer. In terms of skill, it's easy to do okay, hard to do really well. Cost, it's inexpensive if you do it yourself, about $100 to $500, depending of course on how many rooms. If you do decide to hire someone, it's probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 to a couple $1,000s. And I've seen these numbers vary wildly based off of where you live. Project number 2, gleaming hardwood floors. Who hasn't seen this in a home description? There's a reason why it's there. It makes a big difference when someone walks into your home and sees the newly finished floors. The years of abuse simply melt away with a fresh sand and a couple coats of poly. While you certainly can do this yourself, I would not recommend it unless you have prior experience using a belt sander. It is tricky. You can really easily damage your floors beyond repair. The good news is that there are many companies that do it. And since it's so competitive, prices have remained quite reasonable. In terms of time, should take about a week or 2. That does not include moving the furniture in and out of the rooms that need to be completed. Skill, again, it's not that difficult, but it's still best to outsource. And in terms of cost, it's fairly moderate. It averages about $3 per square foot. Number 3. Decks and or porches can sometimes be the difference between someone making an offer and not. Imagine if your first impression of a home was a loose railing or a spongy stair tread. This can be especially worrisome in a condo building, since those are typically considered common repairs. People think, if they haven't fixed this, what else have they neglected? Thankfully, repairing decks and porches is not particularly difficult, depending on its condition, of course. Stair treads are easily replaced. If the posts are still okay, replacing the railings is pretty easy too. However, if you have to rebuild the framing, that's when it can get challenging. Digging new footings is no joke, nor is installing a new ledger board. And please, if you do have to install a new ledger board, do not forget about the flashing. That is one of my pet peeves. Given the wide range of repairs needed, The spread of time, skill, and cost will also be fairly large. In terms of time, could be just a few days to as long as a month if you have to rebuild it. In terms of skill, easy to replace stair treads, difficult to completely rebuild. And the cost, it can vary greatly based on the materials used and the scope of work. And lumber is also very expensive right now, so you have to factor that in as well. Number 4, landscaping. What does someone see when they first pull up? Is it overgrown shrubs and weeds everywhere? If so, a little bit of landscaping can go a long way. Also, consider where agents and potential buyers go after the showing to discuss what they saw. Your yard. Landscaping is easy to do yourself if you have the time and energy to do it. If not, there are plenty of local landscape companies that can spruce up a property lickety-split. In terms of time, it can be fast, a day or two. Could take a little longer if you have more work in the yard to do. Skill, very easy. Cost, other than your time, it's essentially free if you do it yourself, but it is still affordable if using a professional company. Somewhere around $500 to a couple thousand is what I would budget for that. Number 5, and finally, the roof. This one is a biggie. If you look up at your house and see multiple missing, peeling, or chipped shingles, replacing the roof is a must if you want the most for your home. While expensive, it provides the prospective buyer with peace of mind, knowing they won't have to replace it for the next 20 to 30 years. It is honestly the number one question I get asked as a realtor. How old is the roof? Speaking from experience, it could be the difference between having multiple offers and none. If your roof still has more than half of its life left, there's no reason to replace it. Unless you are a roofer by trade, I would 100% recommend that you outsource this project. Working on the roof is simply too dangerous for the weekend warrior. Also, you're going to want to do this at least a few weeks before listing. Roofers are notorious for leaving the yard a mess and the driveway full of nails. It will take some time to clean up and get your yard back to showing condition. For time, it'll take a week or two. Skill, very difficult, not to put on the roof itself, but to be on the roof. That's the difficult part. Cost, it is expensive. Average home here in the Boston market will be somewhere between 10 and 20 grand, and it can actually be even more expensive than that. You might get it for a little less, but not much. These 5 improvements are not even close to everything you can do, but they do represent some of the most common. Do you agree with these recommendations? Either way, feel free to comment below if you found this list useful. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button along with the notification bell so you're notified of future videos. Bye for now.